I need you to understand something before I begin. I do not panic. Panic is a biological luxury reserved for species that have not yet decoded the structure of existence. And we, the Vorith Collective, decoded it approximately 9,000 years before your kind learned how to reliably control fire. So no, I do not panic. What happened on the day a human stepped into our grand assembly and sneezed directly onto the final equation of the cosmos was not panic. It was something far more advanced. It was what our language defines as a total systemic collapse of rational continuity. Allow me to clarify. My designation is Quorvan, Chief Architect of the Vorith Collective's Grand Theorem Division. The title sounds magnificent. It translates, in practice, to this: when reality malfunctions, it is my fault. And reality, as of 4 planetary rotations ago, is malfunctioning. The final equation of the cosmos was not an invention. It was a discovery. It was embedded within space-time itself, like a message folded into the universe's foundation. 11,000 years of observation. 11,000 years of modeling civilizations across 400 galaxies. Empires, hive minds, democracies, tyrannies, synthetic consciousness, biological extremism, all of them. Every pattern, every rise, every collapse. And at the end of that immense data set, we uncovered it. One equation, one unified formula capable of predicting the behavioral trajectory of any sentient civilization at any point in its timeline. The margin of error was so small, it bordered on insulting the concept of probability itself. Every species followed it. The Drillians followed it when they constructed their first stellar bridge. The Fenari followed it when their governance system imploded under administrative saturation. We predicted the exact decade of collapse. We were off by 3 days. Selva, one of our junior mathematicians, predicted the Praxis warlords' entire military campaign using the equation and a cooling cup of tea. The war lasted precisely as long as she calculated. We were not merely intelligent. We were correct. Then came Earth. Earth was unremarkable, a small world orbiting a mid-range star at a distance that permitted life without optimizing it. Biochemically messy, politically fragmented, emotionally volatile. We began monitoring humans 3 centuries ago when their electromagnetic noise became statistically interesting. We entered them into the equation. The output was clean, predictable, routine. Humans would achieve basic interstellar capability in approximately 400 years. Before that, they would endure resource conflicts, regional fragmentation, at least one near-extinction crisis, and eventual reluctant unification driven by external pressure. Standard evolutionary arc. We have seen it thousands of times. What we had never seen in 11,000 years was a species that appeared to look at its predicted path and deliberately ignore it. Humans achieved faster-than-light travel in 112 years. Not 400, 112. They did not unify first. They did not stabilize. They did not eliminate internal volatility. They advanced anyway, and they did it because a human named Dara Foss, operating alone inside a ground-level mechanical workspace on a continent designated North America, became, and I am quoting the translation software after 7 separate verification cycles, bored. She was bored during what humans classify as a long weekend. And in response to that boredom, she solved faster-than-light propulsion. I have audited the translation repeatedly. It continues to indicate boredom as the primary motivational catalyst. When her vessel, self-designated the Casual Friday, exited faster-than-light transit directly within monitored Vorith territory, our detection grid did not trigger a threat alert. It triggered confusion. There is a distinct acoustic signature our systems produce when incoming data violates every predictive model simultaneously. We have heard that tone only once before, during a catastrophic sensor corruption event in year 7040. We heard it again. Peller, my assistant, enter my chamber without requesting clearance. Peller does not bypass protocol. Peller respects structure. Peller is measured, composed, statistically reliable. He was not measured. Quorvan, he said, In a voice that fractured composure itself, a human vessel has arrived. It appears to be constructed from recycled cargo containers, and what our scans are identifying as industrial-grade adhesive compounds. I looked at him. 17 kilometers from the assembly's primary docking ring. He continued, staring at his data interface, as though it had personally betrayed him. She is requesting docking permission. She is also asking whether we provide food services. She states she is hungry because she forgot to pack snacks. I turned slowly toward the projection of the final equation. Lines of perfect mathematical harmony hovered before me. Elegant, precise, eternal. The equation had predicted wars, collapses, revolutions, enlightenment cycles, extinction probabilities, and transgalactic alliances. It had predicted the lifespan of empires to the year. It had never predicted snacks. For the first time in 9,000 years of continuous validation, the final equation of the cosmos produced no output, no variable, no adjustment, no correction, silence. And that was the moment I understood something profoundly disturbing. The universe had limits, and those limits had just been breached by a species that built a faster-than-light engine out of scrap metal, because it was bored. Let me clarify something immediately. When the Vorath Collective constructed the Grand Assembly, we engineered it to endure eternity. 12,000 tons of hyperforged alloy, walls reinforced against stellar flares, gravitational distortions, and rogue asteroids traveling at catastrophic velocities. It had survived 3 intergalactic wars, 2 governmental implosions, and 1 incident involving the Drillians that remains permanently sealed in our historical archives. It had never faced a human with curiosity and absolutely no respect for boundaries. Dara Foss entered our primary hall at exactly 9:14 Assembly Standard Time. She was shorter than most advanced species. Her clothing looked like it had negotiated with time and lost. She carried a bag that produced a concerning metallic rattle with every step. She stopped in the center of the grand hall, beneath architecture that civilizations had traveled light years to witness, scanned the towering columns, the suspended light structures, the gravitationally balanced sculptures, and said, loudly, confidently, without hesitation, "Oh wow, this looks like a fancy airport. Do you have a coffee shop?" Peller turned to me. I turned to Peller. We possessed no procedural framework for this. We had protocols for hostile arrivals, diplomatic arrivals, accidental arrivals. We did not have a protocol for an arrival that was somehow all 3 and mildly inconvenienced by hunger. We gave her food. Statistically, it seemed the safest move. That should have been the end of the absurdity. It was not, because after eating something from her rattling bag, something that appeared nutritionally questionable yet aggressively confident, she leaned back in her chair and said, "I heard you figured out how everything works. I want to see it." The big math thing. 11 senior Vorath officials were present, collectively representing 40,000 years of accumulated scientific advancement. She addressed us like we were a tourist attraction. "The final equation of the cosmos," I replied carefully, "is not displayed to species who have only recently achieved interstellar capability." Her eyes locked onto mine, direct, unflinching, alarmingly focused. It felt as though she was reading annotations inside my skull. "You mean you do not show it to species you think are not smart enough? That is a reductive interpretation." "Sure," she said, standing. "Let me see it." I do not know why I agreed. I have analyzed that decision 412 times since the incident. The closest conclusion I have reached is this. Humans speak with a casual certainty that makes resistance feel structurally inefficient. Refusal requires effort. Agreement simply happens. So we brought her to the equation chamber. The final equation spanned an entire wall. It was perfection rendered visible. 11,000 years of mathematical refinement. Every symbol deliberate, every line balanced. It glowed softly in the chamber's low light like the nervous system of the universe itself. Every assembly member who had first witnessed it had wept. Even the Praxis warlords, who historically wept at nothing, had reportedly experienced visible emotional leakage. Dara Foss stood before it, silent, Peller held his breath. I held mine. The chamber itself felt suspended between seconds. She studied the equation for a long time. Her eyes moved rapidly. Not confused. Not overwhelmed. Just processing. Then she sneezed. It was not a polite sneeze. It was decisive. Full body. Committed. Her bag swung forward with momentum. It struck the control panel embedded beside the projection wall. The interface flickered. A single variable shifted. 47th line. Third symbol from the right. It blinked. It changed. The chamber emitted a sound I have no translation for. It was not mechanical. It was not organic. It was something in between. The equation recalculated. Lines rearranged. Constants adjusted. Predictive branches collapsed and reformed. And at the bottom of the projection, in letters large enough to dominate the chamber, appeared the following output. Insufficient data. Anomaly detected. Reclassify subject species as variable. Variable. Not predictable. Not linear. Not conforming to historical precedent. Variable. A factor that refuses to remain constant. A number that becomes something new each time it is observed. A presence that does not fit inside a closed system because it keeps rewriting the system itself. Dara wiped her nose, looked at the output, and nodded. Yeah, she said calmly. That tracks. The silence that followed was unlike any silence I have experienced. It was not confusion. It was not fear. It was the sound of certainty dissolving. 11,000 years of flawless prediction stepping aside. I reviewed, in that moment, every civilization we had charted. Every empire whose lifespan we had calculated with arrogant precision. Every species we had categorized, modeled, understood. And standing before me was a human who arrived 300 years ahead of schedule in a ship assembled from scrap metal and adhesive compounds. Because she was bored. And for the first time in recorded Vorith history, we felt curious. Curiosity is not a small emotion for us. It is seismic. It is dangerous. It is transformative, which means this is either the beginning of something extraordinary or the beginning of something we will regret with historic intensity. Knowing humans is almost certainly both. At the same time, at maximum volume, I, Quorvan, chief architect of the Grand Theorem Division, who does not panic, returned quietly to my office. I sat down, opened a new projection field, and began constructing a new equation from the foundation upward. This time, the structure included a dedicated variable. Unstable, adaptive, expanding, labeled with one simple word. Human. The cosmos calculated everything. Every war, every empire, every extinction, but never calculated defiance. And that is where humanity begins.